for a very nice inaugural session, and thank you for a nice introduction. Indeed, this is a good way to start my week in Delhi. The last week I have spent in West Bengal and in the Andamans. I was traveling with my other four Nordic colleagues, and we were doing a bit of sort of fact-finding for the world, how India looks like from that perspective. And I must say that it looked a bit different compared to what it looks like from Delhi. But that's the richness and richness of India is the diversity and the differences you can see in different parts of the country. This is a great time to organize a winter school and to invite professors and students from Finland. I'm sure you have all been following international news, and you know that we are facing the winter, maybe not the winter of the century, but it's pretty cold at the moment. So it's a great time to spend 2 weeks in Delhi in a very pleasant climate. And using your brains, using your time for a very good course. Academic studies and discussion, and to be inspired by what you see and what you hear and what you do here. Indeed, 13 students, I understand, and 6 faculty members from the University of Turku, which is my old alma mater, as was pointed out earlier on. I indeed studied a while ago doing political science, international law, geography, etc., because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do next. But with that combination, I ended up in India 30 years later. So, but I remember already in those days, maybe we might have not discussed about sustainable development goals, but we discussed a lot about international development cooperation and development. Not basically international development cooperation. Gradually. But in those days it was mainly from, to put it very bluntly, mainly from the Western or European world to the other partners. And since that, things have changed dramatically, because now we have all understood that we are in the, so to say, in the same boat, and that we are working together, for instance, as far as sustainable development goals are concerned. The basic fact is that nobody can survive on his or her own. We have a tremendous responsibility for this planet, whether we talk about development as such, or as the professor mentioned early on, how the world is almost in crisis at the moment. So that is something we indeed have to address. And anyways, the University of Turku University of Applied Sciences, Pori units, and Southeastern Finland University of Applied Sciences. So it's a great combination. I was also happy to hear in the morning that this cooperation between the Shimla College has been going on ever since 2012. So you really have an established way of cooperating and way of exchanging students and professors. And that, in my mind, has always been and will be the best way to enhance exchange of ideas and increase knowledge between different parts of the world, either studying in Finland or studying in India. And when you do that, you realize how close we are and how we also share the same issues and the same problems. You flew here a couple of days ago, so you know that from Helsinki to Delhi it takes only 6-7 hours. It's surprisingly close. And when you spend here 2 weeks, you realize that we are almost practically neighbors. And I'm sure that after those 2 weeks, you will have an experience and you go back home with widened horizons and with armful of new ideas. India, I've been here now for 18 months. India is much more than you realize only by reading Finnish media. Therefore, I'm very happy that you are here to see what this country is all about. And this country, I think, has offered the best brains to the world. And Talking about education, I think I will also use this opportunity to say a couple of words about the education system in Finland. So far, Finland has been doing well. We have been doing well in the international PISA studies, but we're not doing as well as we did a couple of years ago. And as I always say, maybe it's not easy to get to the top, but the challenging task is that when you get to the top, is how to remain there. Never become complacent, but keep on putting emphasis on education and staying on the top. The road to get to the top has been long and demanding, so it would be a shame if we were to fall down due to the fact that we don't try enough. All in all, I would say that education is highly valued in Finnish society, and we do take pride in the quality of our schools and universities. And the keywords in the Finnish education policy are quality, efficiency, equity, and internationalism. And these are brought to practice at all levels of education throughout the country. And I would also add here what is one of the basic facts in the education system is access to information, open access to information, from the very beginning to the very end. And also the quality, equality. In principle, no matter where you come from Finland, you have access to good quality education. And also what I think is one of the biggest differences between India and Finland when we talk about not only basic education but also higher education universities is that in our case education is more or less free. Plus we have hardly any private schools or universities, which in its turn paves way for equality and gives equal opportunities for all. And I'm personally very happy that we have been able to keep it like that. And Finland is, as an independent country, we are 100 years old. And 2017 we celebrated the 100th anniversary of independence. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that throughout these 100 years and even before that, building a strong education system has been a national project. And from very early onwards, we acknowledge that education is key to the competitiveness, and education is key to our welfare. And I strongly believe that good quality education is the backbone of a flourishing society. And this now gives me a bridge to say a few words about the Sustainable Development Goals. Once again, quality education, quality research, quality innovation are also the backbones of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. To achieve sustainable development requires change in our thinking, requires change how we face the challenges of the world, requires change how we relate to these natural resources. So in a way, in order to achieve these goals, we really have to try to change the way we see the world and how we see our position in the world, and how we all need to work together to achieve these goals. Professor Ravi mentioned one of the challenges in India being how to combine, let's say, the national goals to the global sustainable development goals. I think there is a way. Some time ago, before Christmas, I was discussing with Minister Pori, who is the Indian Minister for Housing and Urbanization, a former eminent Indian diplomat to the United Nations, ambassador to the Permanent Representative of the UN, and now a minister in charge of housing and urbanization. And he mentioned the same thing in his speech or in our conversation. But he was quite positive and optimistic that the Indian national goals can be achieved while India is striving towards achieving the goals of the global sustainable development. It needs a lot of work and effort, but he was convinced that can be done. And in a way, what he was saying that Indian national goals and the global goals, they go almost hand in hand. That by fulfilling your own goals, at the same time, you're contributing towards the global goals. In the Finnish policy, when we think of the international or the sustainable development goals, our priorities are, in addition to education, to strengthening democracy, strengthening good governance, and women's and girls' rights. And we have been championing for the women's and girls' rights now for quite a long time. And we believe that the best individual means towards reaching the SDGs globally is to enhance the rights and position of women and girls in the society. While achieving these goals, of course, the main responsibility lies with the governments. They have made the commitments on behalf of all of us. But the real success requires the involvement of the society as a whole. Whether we talk about academia, private sector, civil society, and new forms of innovation, everybody is needed. And that takes me back to the way that the only way to reach these goals is to change the way we think, to change our attitudes, and change the way how we look at the world. I'm sure you will have a profitable time here, and I'm sure that after your 2 weeks when you go back to Finland, you will have some new thoughts and ideas how to make these things happen. Once again, thank you for having us here, and I wish you the best of luck.
Encouraging and insightful talk which raised pertinent issues related to the theme of the conference, as well as the idea of quality education for all, which I'm sure has a few lessons for the Indian system as well. I would now request Professor Santosh Panda, Vice President, South Asian University, Delhi, to give the keynote address of the conference. Professor Panda, please.
Ambassador of Finland to India, Professor Sosa, Professor Kaur, delegates from Finland, from India, dear students and colleagues. It gives me really great pleasure to be back in Samlal College. I'm saying to be back in Samlal College because many of you may not know that I was a member of the governing board of Samlal College for 3 years. And I was instrumental. That was a difficult time the Samlal College was going through, and we were instrumental in putting the college back to shape. And I have been instrumental in appointing some very good colleagues in economics department. I see a face there. And I think I'm coming here after a few years, and I see significant change in the infrastructure here. I had heard good things about Ravi. I'm calling him Ravi because he was a student when I was a faculty in Delhi school. I mean, he was exaggerating things. I wasn't really that great, so that he would look at all at me, maybe. He had some reservations to meet me, but I have always adored him as a student. He was not in my department, he was in a sister department, so somehow I knew him. And when he came to request me to come for a keynote address here, first I said that, look, this is not the area in which I work. I am basically a theorist. My work is in microeconomic theory and social choice theory, but yes, I will make an effort to give a keynote talk on sustainable development. Now, while going through the literature on sustainable development, being a theorist, I was tempted to prepare an analytical paper on sustainable development. But then I realized that it is not a good idea to give the inaugural keynote as an analytical theoretical paper. Therefore, I decided to make it an expository paper on sustainable development, and the title today is Sustainable Development Goals and India's Development Policy. Madam Ambassador has already highlighted that these are goals set by the United Nations at a global level, and every country has to adopt this, and adopt means the policy measures in order to attain the sustainable development goals. So what I'm going to do today in the next 35 minutes or so, I'll try to keep to time so that we finish on time. So brush through the concept of sustainable development goals and what India has been doing. How far we have succeeded, naturally it will take time for us to know, because the goal is to be attained in 2030. So, first, what is sustainable development? While going through the literature, I found that there is no general agreement on this. I mean, some people define it in a particular way, some people contest this, but I think the best definition of sustainable development can be the following: development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Obviously, it requires concerted efforts towards building an inclusive, sustainable, and resilient future for people and planet by harmonizing three interconnected elements: economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental protection. It is obvious that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions is an indispensable requirement to attain sustainable development. So let's come to sustainable development goals. Now, in September 2015, United Nations adopted the document titled Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It is a huge, voluminous piece of document which consists of 17 goals and 169 targets to be attained by 2030. Now, goals and targets are universal for the developed and developing countries. SDGs cover all three dimensions: economic, social, and environmental. Now, before we look at SDGs in some detail, let's briefly look at the history of sustainable development goals. So this is the past. What happened in the past which led to developing the sustainable development goals. So we go back to the background. It started all in 1987. The World Commission on Environment and Development. It brought out a report, Our Common Future, which firmly placed sustainable development on the global political agenda. It warned us about the environmental limits. Oh, I haven't changed this slide, sorry. So it warned us about the environmental limits of ever increasing lust for economic growth and suggested to have development models satisfying human needs, ensuring social equity, and respecting environmental limits. Now, this is also popularly known as Brundtland Commission report. So this is where I think it started at a global level, 1987, Brundtland Commission report. It was followed by 1992 Rio Summit, and then the UN Millennium Summit in 2000, which adopted the Millennium Development Goals. So before Sustainable Development Goals, we had Millennium Developmental Goals, which started in 2000. So let's look at the Millennium Development Goals. Now these are adopted during the UN Millennium Summit in September 2000. It was the first collective stand of the world leaders to rid the world of poverty and improve the lot of humanity. The MDGs were envisaged to be implemented for a period of 15 years, that is up to December 2015. And 191 countries were signatories to implement this. MDGs, it had 8 goals, 18 targets, and 35 indicators how to measure these 18 targets. So let's look at first, what are those Millennium Development Goals, which were propounded in 2000 for 15 years. Goal 1, eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Goal 2, achieve universal primary education. Goal 3, promote gender equality and empower women. Goal 4, reduce child mortality. Goal 5, improve maternal health. Goal 6, combat HIV, AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. Goal 7, ensure environmental sustainability. Goal 8, develop a global partnership for development. Now, India's MDG framework, so India was a signatory to Millennium Development Goals, and it had made an effort to meet the Millennium Development Goals. The Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation was entrusted with the statistical tracking of MDGs in India, and it prepares monitoring reports on the basis of data sets generated at national level. Now 2015 was the target. What India has attained for Millennium Development Goals, the latest India country report is available at this website. This is Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation .mospi.gov.in. So anyone who is interested can have a look. Now, the goals and targets set under the 8 Millennium Development Goals could not be fully achieved by all countries by the end of 2015. Need was felt to start fresh discussions to assess the usefulness of the MDGs and to explore possible successor to guide development operation in the world beyond 2015. At the UN Conference on Sustainable Development held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 2012, which is called Rio Plus 20, initiated the debate, and they worked towards post-2015 development agenda and developed SDGs, which, as I said, has 17 goals, 169 targets, and 303 indicators. Now let's compare what is the difference between MDGs and SDGs. Now, as I said, MDGs had 8 goals. SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, has 17. So it has really expanded. So let's have a brief comparison. Now look at, so this slide shows you, the next few slides will show you a comparison between MDGs with SDGs. MDG Goal 1, eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Come to SDG, it has split it into 2. Goal 1, end poverty in all its forms everywhere. I am emphasizing this. Say earlier it was simple. Eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. SDG Goal 1, it says end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Now that means the basic shift between MDG goal and SDG goal is multi-dimensional poverty. Now, eradicating extreme poverty and hunger, it was only the income dimension. But when it came to sustainable development goals, it was thought that poverty, the income poverty is only one kind of poverty. But poverty can take many forms. It can be in nutrition, it can be in health, it can be in housing, it can be in sanitation. Now therefore, if the multi-dimensional poverty, that is being focused on the sustainable development goals. So end poverty in all its forms, everywhere. Very ambitious objective. And goal 2, end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Now, goal 2 under MDG is achieve universal primary education. I think goal was very simple. Achieve universal primary education. Now under SDG, it got transformed to goal 4. Goal 4, it says ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Now, goal 3 under MDG, promote gender equality and empower women. Under sustainable development goals, it became goal 5. It says achieve. There it was promote. It says achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. So again, stronger goals. MDG, goal 4, 5 and 6. Reduce child mortality, improve maternal health, combat HIV, AIDS, malaria and TB. Now when we come to sustainable development goals, it becomes goal number 3. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. So again, you can see that these are stronger goals under sustainable development goals. Now look at goal 7 under MDG, ensure environmental sustainability. So when it came to environment, there's just one simple goal, ensure environmental sustainability. When you come to sustainable development goals, environment has got more focus and it has now 4 goals under it and split. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. That is goal 12. Goal 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Goal 14, conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, marine resources for sustainable development. And goal number 15, protect, restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. So this ensure environmental sustainability is now being spelled out into 4 different goals and covers all aspects of environmental protection. Now, goal number 8 under MDG was develop global partnership for development. That becomes goal number 17 under sustainable development goals, and it says strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Okay, from 8 it became 17. There were a number of new goals were introduced under sustainable development goals. So what are these new goals on the sustainable development goals which are not there on the Millennium Development Goals? Now goal number 6 is to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Water and sanitation, it was not explicitly mentioned on the Millennium Development Goals, but now it appears on the Sustainable Development Goals. Goal 7, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. Goal number 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustained economic growth, sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Goal number 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Goal 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. Goal 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Goal 16, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. So these are all the goals that has now been listed on the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals. Now, let's look at the policy priorities under the Sustainable Development Goals and India's ongoing developmental programs which addresses the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, my view is there is a convergence between global SDGs vision and India's development plan. India is always committed to a sustainable path to prosperity. SDGs recognize that economic growth, industrialization, infrastructure, and access to energy provide foundations for development. India too